everybody get logged in and good. Ready? It works. It is 4:30 on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. And I call this meeting of the Meridian Historic Preservation Commission to order. Roll call, Blaine Johnston's here, Pam Jagosh, Jack Keller,
Here.
Patrick Giddings,
Here.
Ken Freeze, Deborah Pitts. Thank you. Just a reminder for the commission that we have a vacancy on the commission, and right now we're accepting applications to the 1st of March. So spread the word, social media, friends, whatever, if they're interested, let them know. With that, adoption of the agenda.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Giddings, second by Commissioner Keller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Approval of minutes from our January 25th meeting.
Move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting of the Historical Preservation Commission.
I second.
Motion by Commissioner Freeze, second by Commissioner Keller for approval of our minutes from January 25th. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Approval of monthly financial statements. Garrett, you have waiting for one billing from TAG. Is that what I understood you say?
Sorry about that. Yeah, Cassandra's notes here say there's no items for this month, but just TAG's first invoice for $1,000 reprocessed soon for the initial work for the historic walking tour guide.
Thank you. With that, do we have a motion to approve our monthly financial?
Mr. President, I move to approve the monthly financial statement.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Keller, second by Commissioner Giddings for approval of our monthly financial statements. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll go on to old business. This is going to be a fast meeting, guys, so thank you. Discussion and planning, May 2024 Preservation Month activities. It's going to be here before we know it. So I know last month we talked about unplugged and be outside, which is, I think, starts May 18th. We're coordinating that with the city and parks. Is that right? Thank you. So I think that's going to be, pull up a calendar, whatever that Saturday is. We usually do a good walking tour. I can pull up a calendar. So yes, May 18th is a Saturday. So if we can, I think, coordinate with and get our walking tour going that day, we'll have good success. I think everybody liked it last year when Barb helped us out with that. But we're still open to other ideas. I know that Cassandra's talked to Meridian Library about possibly pulling up a tour again. They're still doing some coordination on that to see if that can come about. For little work on our part. We can put up those sandwich boards again on some of those buildings outside. We did that last year. I think that creates some good interest with the public, so they can just walk by as they're walking around Meridian, get a little bit of history. Promote our walking tour app. So I think that's going to be another post we can do on social media beforehand, is publicize that again, that people can download that if they want to. With that, does anybody else have any suggestions for activities for Preservation Month? I don't know if we have a theme yet from SHPO on what this year's is going to be. Not necessarily we have to abide by that or follow that exactly, but we usually try to if at all possible.
Mr. Chairman or Mr. President, how many tours did we give last year?
I think we had one, I think there's two, excuse me, we did 2 tours. One was just a walking tour around downtown, but there was also one at the Speedway one day. That I think the commission got in for free, but it was actually a fundraiser for something that the public paid for to do that tour of the Speedway, which it was a good tour, and they did a good job with that.
Would we think about having more than one tour that day on the Saturday, or is there enough call for it?
We can plan on more than one, like one in the morning, one in the afternoon. In the past, if we just plan on one during the day, it usually goes over fairly well. And it's a 2-hour walking tour by the time we do all the historic sites on Pine Tree School, Neal House, and going around. It's usually a couple hours to walk around and do everything. So I think people are a bit tired by the time they get done walking.
I was just thinking, yeah, as you suggested, maybe a morning and then an afternoon tour, different ones, whether we would have the information so that any of the commissioners could do the tour.
I don't see a problem with that. A lot depends on, one, what the weather's going to be like. We can't plan on that. If it's sunny, we can plan on one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Yeah, we can get brochures or printed up information.
Well, there was something that TAG was going to do that put together something, did I miss that? Where they were going to put together a binder and give us information. So that was that discussed?
It was discussed last month.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably in our old business further on down to still work on and approve. I don't know if we'll get it done this year, but we can come up with something for if a commission member wants to hold a tour, enough information, they could run a tour and go through it. So.
Okay.
Any other discussion, ideas, thoughts? Probably by next month, we need to probably finalize everything. And that'll just give us month of April to just finish up plans so that come May, we can hit this rolling. So,
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
when will SHPO give us the theme? Do you know roughly?
probably next month. They may have it out now, but I'm not seeing anything, but we should have something by next month of what the themes is.
Mr. President, what about who can give a tour of the little museum in there? I know that's really the libraries, but I've had people ask me that, oh, we didn't even know it was there, and are there tours?
It's usually open in the afternoons, but it's up to the library district. If someone's here, then they'll give the tour in there.
I was just thinking that within that week, is that a possibility as well for?
If someone is here, yeah, it's a possibility to have
But would it be us or would it be the library?
it'd be the library.
A library, okay.
Yep.
Mr. President,
Mr. Giddings.
I know one person I've spoken to at the library is Brian Cottle. I think he has a lot to do with the History Center here. I've spoken to him a couple of times, so I think maybe if we decide to do something along those lines, we could get in touch with them and And I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
To try and coordinate and collaborate with the library district since they hold so much of the Meridian History Center here.
Mhm. Yeah, I think whatever we do, reach out. I think we just need to make sure we coordinate through Cassandra so she has documentation on all that stuff, so. Any other discussion on Preservation Month?
Mr. President, I think I read, I've forgotten where I did, about the library doing a digital project. And I'm just wondering if that could be part of it, or would that have been done by then?
They did one, I want to say 2 weeks ago in an afternoon. But that's not to say if we could talk to them and during Preservation Month, if they want to do something here again for the public, that may be a possibility.
I'm just thinking that might be something interesting for the public to, because I've had people say to me, well, I have these documents, I really don't know what to do with them, and so I think that if that could be part of Preservation Month, or we could at least look into that, maybe that's a possibility.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Giddings.
So in my communications with Meridian Library District, they do a digital drop. It's every second Wednesday of the month. They help individuals scan photos to preserve their history and things like that. I myself have also taken photo albums over to the Unbound branch of the library district. They have really nice scanner and software set up there, and I've scanned whole photo albums over there. So I definitely think there's opportunities. If we can get the word out to people, I think there's opportunities there. And I've seen on Facebook, the library district promoting the scanning sessions that they do here.
So I think what we need to do is I'll talk with Ms. Schiffler about that, and maybe we can coordinate a few extra sessions during that week that we want to do Preservation Month. Excuse me while I write some notes. Okay. Any other ideas?
Do you think that we could maybe promote the app more?
I think we should. Well, I think we'll do another post on Facebook and Instagram, promoting that for so that they can do it. But I also ask at the same time for the members of the commission, if they're on social media, to follow Meridian History, like the posts that we do, and then also share it. Because you guys have more friends or different friends than what Meridian History has or what I would have. So we're going to reach a broader audience. So I asked the commissioners to make sure they like and share those posts also.
Mr. President, do we have any data on the amount of the usage that the app has gotten? Do we get any analytics?
We do, Ms. Schiffler is going to have all that information. So, but I don't, right offhand, I don't know how many people downloaded the app or anything like that.
I just think that that would be, Preservation Month would be a good way to promote that as well. So,
Well, and the other thing we need to, when we re-promote it is, when we created that walking tour app, we also bought coins for people to use, and originally set up that if they had some questions, they could answer. If they answered all the questions, they would get a commemorative coin. We still have 95% of those coins. So we can redo it and just do as simple as if you download it and like it, then we can get you a commemorative coin. They're all numbered and stuff like that. So something else that we can promote, say,
yeah, especially among kids.
Yeah.
Maybe, kids love that kind of stuff. I guess adults do too, so.
yeah. Okay, any further discussion on Preservation Month? All right, we'll go on to item 4, historic research and consulting and other projects for FY 24-25. Review estimates and proposals for, graphic redesign of the walking tour brochures. Garrett, you have got some numbers for us?
Yeah, Mr. President, in front of you, Sherry, who is right here in the audience, she has dropped off the landmarking program bid for you guys' reference when we choose the 3 projects to kind of prioritize those. That said, I know the graphic redesign historic walking tour brochure, option 1 and option 2. Option 1 is approximately $2,550, or option 2 is about option 2 is $1,950. The landmarking program, which is here in front of you, is and I said consultant Sherry is right out there too, and to answer any questions. And then the thermoplastic decals are about $600 a piece.
So with that, Sherry, come on up and talk to us. Let us know what you want.
Good afternoon. My name is Sherry Freemuth. I'm a senior planner at JUB Engineers. I'm going to have to look at our letterhead to give you my work address. Why don't I give you my home address? 1303 North 24th Street, Boise, Idaho. But I work for JUB Engineers, and our headquarters, our corporate headquarters is in Meridian at 10 Mile Interchange. And I report to the Meridian office, and we do in my division, we do a lot of land use planning, comprehensive plans, specific area plans, and so forth. We also have an environmental division that does cultural and natural resources. And I have many, many years' experience doing historic preservation work, historic preservation plans. I worked for 10 years. Prior to being at JUB, I worked for the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and I was the Pacific Northwest Field Officer. So I did a lot of work in Oregon and Idaho and Washington. Prior to working for the National Trust, I worked for SAIC, which is an environmental consulting firm, now known as Leidos, which also has an office at the 10 Mile Interchange. And I worked on the Meridian Comprehensive Plan years ago. I recognize your city attorney, I think was city attorney at the time. Before that, I worked for Ada County Development Services, and I started their Ada County Historic Preservation Council as the staff person. I was the Cassandra, I guess, in that situation. And that was back in 1990. And before that, I worked for the city of San Diego as the Old Town planner. So that is me. I've been around a long time. And I was talking to Cassandra about some opportunities that might be coming up in the next couple of years through the Certified Local Government Grant Program. And she was asking me for quotes for historic preservation plans because we've done several. Or rather, I have done several, and with the company just one, the Washington County Historic Preservation Plan. And while we were talking, she said, well, we have a research project that we've been kicking around to find out more about this local landmarking. And would you be able to do something like that for this amount of money? And so I said, yeah, I'd be interested in doing that. So I put together this short proposal. The last page tells you a little bit more about me and my colleague Marika, who is a public involvement coordinator and a planning technician. The second to last page has a proposed cost, which totals to the total that she gave me, which is about $5,000. And then the third from the third page and the third from the back is the 4 phases that I imagine would be required, to do to work with you collaboratively over about 4 months and meet with you monthly to talk about the project, or meet with other people who you think I should meet with. It doesn't necessarily have to be this group, but I did budget for meetings, monthly meetings. Having us do some data collection where we meet with CHPO and talk about other communities in the state that have used this provision of state code. I'm pretty sure there aren't a lot of them. So that will be a small bit of research, but they also are active in professional associations and they may have ideas of other resources for us to delve into. I know that other organizations like the National Association of Preservation Commissions have done research on this landmarking topic. So that's what would occur in phase 2 is data collection and kind of review of the program. And then I propose that we draft a memo that summarizes all of this and presents recommendations, and that we meet and perhaps invite the public to talk about what this would look like. I'm inclined to think the biggest concern is going to be that the public foresees this to be a onerous undertaking that would make life difficult for them. And so having a little public meeting, meet and greet to talk about it and get people's concerns. I envision that happening in phase 3. And then in phase 4, we would finalize the memo based on that input and maybe change the recommendations if we feel like we got some feedback that said we overstepped or maybe we didn't step far enough. And then you would have that documentation to determine what your next steps are, whether you are going to proceed with the ordinance amendments or whether you will want to wait and discuss this further when you do your historic preservation plan or, all of the above. So that was my take on it. It doesn't mean that we have to do it that way, but I felt like that would give you enough of our assistance and fit within your budget and get you well on your way to making an informed decision about whether this program is something you want to undertake or not.
I'm formulating questions, but I'm gonna let the rest of the commissions ask questions if they want to, so.
Well, I think you answered all the questions that I already had. One of my big questions was if we knew of any other communities that were already doing this that we could reach out to beforehand, but it looks like part of your research is going to be to answer that question.
Yes, that's correct. Chairman Johnson and Commissioner Giddings. I know that the city of Boise has some type of landmarking, but I don't believe it has any kind of teeth to it. I've seen the booklet, and they purposely selected sites that were already kind of in public hands where there would be no conflict. But they may have changed that over the years. And I don't know about the other. There are maybe a dozen communities, preservation commissions of the 40 preservation commissions that there are in the state that even do any kind of design review of any kind. So I would say that would be the logical first place to look, but there could be some outliers that I'm not aware of. But that would, yes, SHPO knows. SHPO knows all. So we would start with them.
I know that one of the benefits I thought of the landmarking program was that it's something that could be done more at a local level. I think that there's some cost, as we've had experience with. It takes a considerable amount of time to get a house listed on the National Historic Register. And I didn't realize, but there's substantial cost involved in that too. Whereas if we had something local, when people come to us, and I know that we've had people come to us before wanting their properties to have some kind of a designation, we might be able to use this as a vehicle to do that. It would save us a ton of time, would save some cost, presumably quite a bit of cost, and allow us to do something to preserve the history of Meridian.
Any other questions? So I guess my big question is I'm going to say it's deliverables because that's what you're going to give us, is from that information, we can choose if we want to, and I'm just throwing out ideas, and that along with our preservation plan, if we can create historic districts, we use that information for historic districts. If we find a house here in Meridian really doesn't qualify to be listed on the National Registry, but it's important to the city of Meridian. We can use that information to create a city landmark, for lack of a better term.
Yes, Chairman Johnston, we would not be able to identify those properties as part of this project.
Mhm.
But we could explain to you what your landmarking designation options are.
Okay,
And just a point of clarification on the National Register designation, that actually doesn't protect the property,
Mhm.
nor would your landmarking designation protect the property unless you link it to your local ordinance where it says, yes, this property is flagged, any property on this map situated in this place would require at time of building permit
Mhm.
application that the Preservation Commission be notified for a 30-day review, or, these are the kinds of things that, and I'm borrowing heavily from a demolition review process that I'm familiar with, which is kind of sounds like that's what you're trying to get to, is to make sure that these things just don't evaporate
correct.
before you've had a chance to even think about it.
Mhm.
So there are ways to do that, and we would outline, those ways in the memo. Forming historic districts has its own science to it that's different than this local landmarking provision. But I'm not quite sure how we can talk about the landmarking without talking about how the districts work.
Right.
And I believe you have National Register districts in Meridian, do you not?
We had one.
Okay,
It was the old Mitlighter Farms south of town.
okay,
I think it's still there, but there's nothing really there that's in existence anymore.
okay.
That's the only historic district that we have. So at the present time.
Okay. So if you were to do a historic district, a local historic district now, let's say around around the historic high school, I believe, the white and blue building used to be white and blue anyway. Let's say you could put together some contiguous properties to form a district that maybe not meet the National Register district findings, but could meet a local district findings, then you could preserve that by using some of the same landmarking tools, but you have a broader swath to it. Do you see what I mean? And the point of doing that is usually, one, to discourage demolition, of course. It's in a historic district. If you take out one, you've ruined the integrity of all of them, but also to regulate height or setbacks or other things that your zoning code isn't quite up to snuff on because it doesn't recognize it as a historic district. You see what I mean? So it works hand in hand with your zoning district, which is a different tool than the landmarking, which is almost like a flag, right? A flag to come to you.
Right.
Whereas the historic district gives you a whole area that you would have jurisdiction over, if you want it, and if the owners want you to.
Yeah.
Which is usually the rub.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to have public buy-in on it, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was my understanding of this process, was we'd collect all the information, present it to you, potentially in front of an audience of people who would be concerned, like the people who have historic buildings. And then they could give you, in a non-confrontational way, when you're just talking about this memo, you're not talking about changing the ordinance, you'd get their input without it being, the final decision, which I think is a smart way to do it. Avoiding confrontation.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Let me freeze.
Might it be in your scope of work to show where any of these designations might add value to the property?
Chairman Johnston, Commissioner Freeze, I think we could look to see if that information is available, if in other communities where they've done landmarking. I know I have seen economic reports on the value of historic preservation where designation does improve. So we can speak to that. I can't do any individual analysis, of course, but we could speak to the economic value if that's what you're referring to.
Mhm.
I lived in Old Town Alexandria for a while, and some people dreaded their houses or homes being designated in some historical way because it would, they didn't see it as adding value, that they were going to have to go through a bunch of extra hoops to do anything.
Mhm.
And I think if there's some way where we can show added value for this designation, I think people would be more inclined to say, hey, yeah, this is a good thing.
Agreed.
Any other questions? Anything for us?
I don't think so. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm delighted that you're so forward-thinking, that you have your own funds to spend on historic preservation activities. That's excellent.
Thank you for taking time to talk with us tonight.
Absolutely.
So, before we go on any further, item 2 on that is purchase of historic, the thermoplastic decals that are on sidewalk. I think most of the commission members have probably seen those decals out on the sidewalks in front of some of our historic buildings. They were installed, I think, 10 years ago. That we bought them. Parks Department graciously installed them for us back then. Price has gone up. They're $600 a piece. For that, I did a survey. I got too many notes running around here. I walked around yesterday and looked at, I think, 12 of them, 11, 12 of them. The only one that's in really, really good or decent shape is the one out here in City Plaza. Which surprised me with the amount of traffic we get out there. But the ones in front of Zamzel's, the Vault, all over, they're pretty faded, pretty worn, and need to be replaced. But with that, that's more money than we can spend this year. So I think what I'd like to do probably is plan on it, but let's try and create a budget item for fiscal year 2025. That way we can get the ones that need to be replaced, buy a few spares, plus I think we probably need to get a couple more purchased to be installed on some of those homes that don't do it. Let me pull up a calculator real quick.
Mr. President,
Mr. Giddings.
are you saying that it would be a separate line item from our regular budget?
That's what we're planning on, is we're gonna do a line item for that in next year's budget.
Okay.
I got too many notes. I'm gonna go 600. Yeah, so we're looking at, if we buy 15 of them at $600 a piece, we're looking at $9,000. So I think our best option is to plan on it and do it in FY 25. And I think we can ask the city when it comes time for budget year for another few $1,000s, because we've got a definite need for that. I think that they maybe would buy in on that. So that's my thought on the street decals. So.
Mr. President, there's a plaque in front of, and I've forgotten the name of the house. It's white and it's where, it's now an event center.
Tolith House.
Yeah, they have a nice plaque. So is that in addition, or how does that?
It's an addition, and I don't know where those came from, because that was pre-me.
Ah,
So I don't know where they come.
That's a nice plaque.
Missionary, do you know where those stand-up plaques came from? Because the Bell House has one, the Tolith House has them.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the commission, yeah, those also, I think, predated me. They've been around quite a long time. So the ones I know of are the ones you're talking about, the ones that are in the sidewalk. Those ones that were stand-up, I think those were done, well, more than 10 years ago.
You're right.
So quite a while. I don't know if they were funded by the commission or by the Historical Society that was in existence at the time, or the foundation. So it may have been something like that. Another suggestion, Mr. President, I think, and you've been through the budget conversation with the mayor's office, you know, what they normally are going to ask the commission is, is this in addition to work that you are planning? Or is this, if you decide like this $9,000 for these, you've got 10,000 I see in your budget currently for consulting and photography.
Mhm.
You know, is that something that is a project maybe over this fiscal year and then next fiscal year, instead of doing more of that, you want to pivot to doing the other upkeep? Or is it an addition? I think those are just the questions that
Right.
get asked
Yep.
to be prepared, but I don't recall the city paying for those items, but I don't know that for certain of those ones. I think there's probably 3 or 4.
I think there's 4 of them.
Yeah. But I don't know if they're paid by the Historical Society or by the commission. Or both.
Okay. Something we could look into as an option, well, not as an option, in addition to, let's put it that way. I do like those stand-up signs. I think they look good. They're kind of hard to see, but those decals show up in a hurry when you see them.
Yeah, Mr. President, do you think they might, I don't have a clue as to how much those would be versus the decals. Of course, each one has to be,
Individual.
yeah, it's individual,
Mhm.
but they do provide information that, you know, if you have a book, then it's,
Yeah, I think I've got all the information on the signs are in the book or in the app.
Mm.
So some people are going to see it as a duplication. Other people see it as, oh, that's kind of neat. It's because they're not going to use the app or they're not going to use the tour. They can walk by and read it right there. So something we can think about. So. I don't have anything else right now. So I think at this point in time,
Mr. President, about the fold or this book.
yeah,
Do we have any idea of how much the difference would be in printing these two? I mean, this is really a nice book. I'm afraid it's too nice. I mean, you know, it's beautiful, but, you know, unfortunately, I'm afraid that people aren't going home and saving them. I think they're tossing them probably once they go through the tour. And it just seems like the fold would be much more economical than this would be.
and that's what we're going to look at is
Yeah.
what's going to be the best option for us to do. Because the one we have now is a real upgrade from what we had beforehand. So we're trying to bring it up, but we had these designed just before our app came out. So that was the best thing we could do at the time. But we still have, I think, 2 boxes or 3 boxes of them left. So right now we're just looking at, do we want to redesign them and in what configuration we want to do? But like I said, I don't think probably won't run out of brochures until another 2 years would be a guess. So.
And there wasn't that much difference in the costs
Mhm.
around the design, but I would think the printing would be
Printing,
considerably
yeah.
different. So that was just a thought I had.
Okay.
And if we get people to the app side, you know, people are going more and more to apps. And so then that kind of expense, maybe we just rely on the app. That's why I was thinking about the analytics.
Mhm.
You know, but I would think that the app could help our budget much more than this.
Mr. President,
Mr. Giddings.
yeah, I'm liking what you're saying. We actually could simplify this brochure a little bit. We could make it available online. We could make it available on the app. And it could be a paper brochure, like you said. This is a really nice thing to have somebody pick up and then take home and, you know, not have any use for after that. So when we do run out of these, maybe we could move to more of a paper-based thing where what we might be paying somebody to do is to do all of the design on it. And then it just gets regurgitated out of a printer as we need them to
Mhm.
refill, you know, the locations where these things are kept. But I think this is really nice. One of my questions was on this brochure, is it content that needs to be updated?
Yes.
Okay, so there is
Yeah, there's
more to add to
Yeah,
this.
there's content we want to update, redesign the cover, probably bring up with the colors that we have on our logo now, and yeah, update it a little bit because
So having something where we can use multimedia to get it
Mhm.
dispersed out, whether it be online through the app or more as a paper brochure
Those
is,
have the QR codes in them, so
is something that would allow us to make changes as we go along, rather than being.
Mr. President, there's a
having
QR
something like
code,
this.
yeah.
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 So when we did these, we had the QR code designed, so you could take your phone, scan the QR code, and all this information's, you can bring it up, the history from, that's online. I think it brings up the video that Lyle did for us. All that's on each of these QR codes. So there's even, so maybe we just want to do that is redesign this, keep the QR codes for that information's there. But again, all that information is on the app. So anyway, I think for tonight, do we want to proceed with the landmarking program that Sherry talks about? And maybe proceed with redesign of our walking brochure, just do one or the other? Do we want, as a commission, take our time on brochures, kind of look at them, what kind of information we want to do in that, not proceed with designs right now?
And you said we have how much supply of the existing brochures?
I'm gonna say there's probably 300 or 400 of them in boxes.
For my 2 cents worth is that maybe this is something that could wait. And since we have that many of them, we need to do something with them. We just don't want them to sit in boxes forever and ever. If we do the redesign and go with something different now, maybe those brochures might wind up staying in a box instead of, being used.
And I don't want to waste the money that we spent printing them. So I'd like to see them get used if possible.
Mhm.
And maybe by this time next year, we'll be down far enough that it's going to be time to, if we have our designs complete this year and we're ready to print, then maybe fiscal year of next year, we can print some more. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. Part of the vision that I have for what we can do as a commission is, and we had already talked about getting a script so that we could do walking
Mhm.
tours ourselves and not be dependent on other folks to do that. But we could also use brochures, and they could be used at the time we do the walking tours, especially if we do more than 1 or 2 a year.
Mhm.
Then we could use these brochures up and get them into the hands of people.
Yep.
And then, like we're talking about, we could do a redesign where maybe we do multimedia. We have things available on Facebook. We have things available on the app. We have things available on Meridian City's website. And the brochures could be downloadable at that point. And they could also have the QR code on them so that they could be used, so that people could use them to access the app. So I think that's all good stuff.
So if I hear the commission correctly, at this point in time, we just want to probably proceed with the landmarking program research.
If you're waiting on a motion, I'll make a motion that we proceed with the landmarking
Okay?
with JUB.
I second.
I think we need to clarify that so that proceed with the landmarking program with the price of $49.74. Is
Correct.
that correct, Mr. Neri?
The not to exceed, yes. And then we will help work with getting a contract prepared to get that process completed.
So I move that we proceed with the landmarking program proposal with the total cost of $49.74.
I second.
Motion by Commissioner Giddings, seconded by Commissioner Keller to proceed with the landmarking program research by JUB Engineers with a firm fixed price of $4,974. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
None. Thank you. All right, thanks, Sherry. With that, we will go on to updates. Eggers Farmstead. Developer went for planning and zoning last week. And we had the commission was very receptive and thoughtful of the idea that city is losing our historic sites like the Eggers Farmstead and those buildings. But they also recognize that we cannot stop the growth and development. We did get the developer to agree again that he will disassemble that double granary silo and store it somewhere on a short-term basis. And and create a monument. With that said, I don't like I don't know if I can get it or not. I don't like what they've got in mind, but they are supposed to come up with, bring us back a proposal on the monument. So, right now it's headed to city mayor and city council for final approval on the subdivision plat and annexation. So, we'll proceed that way. I'm hoping we can still save it and have it reassembled on site, but we'll have to just wait and see.
Mr. President, I have some information on that. I got a update from Kelly Movie and Rigging just a couple days ago via email, and they had gotten a report over to David Bailey on Sunday saying that they could move the silo. They could indeed move it. And he had given them a thumbs up and said he'd be in touch with them in about a week.
Okay, I had not heard that one, so,
That's all I know at this point.
okay. Well, we'll see what happens. So like I said, can you forward that email to me and to Cassandra?
Certainly.
Thank you. With that, the Speedway nomination, I think SHPO is done with all their paperwork. They have sent it on to the National Trust for final review. I don't know where that's at right now. We're hoping to hear back shortly. I don't think you guys have heard anything, have you?
Mr. President, no, Cassandra's note just says they're hopeful to have it in the middle of March.
Okay,
So next couple of weeks.
Yep.
Hopeful.
all right. Sounds good. I don't have any more other information. Next meeting is on March 28th here. Yeah, the only thing I can think of is keep thinking about ideas for Preservation Month, what we can do just to finalize that. So I'd like to get stuff finalized next month so we can just hit a few little details in April and in May we're ready. With that, motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Keller, second by Commissioner Giddings for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Yeah.